Oh, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. If you're joining me live, type live into the comment section. If you're joining me on the replay, stop and say hello immediately. Now, this is a very exciting training because what we bring to this DISC Insight is an understanding of possible traumas. We can look at somebody's DISC report and have an insight if this person has gone through a significant emotional event. So check this out. Have you ever seen a DISC report that looks like this? Have you seen the D style going up or down significantly? Have you seen significant movement in the I style? Have you seen a significant in the S style or even the C style? When you see this, this is a significant disparity. Maybe you've seen some DISC reports that look like this. The D's going up, the I remains the same, the S drops down, and the C also drops down. Have you seen that before? Or have you seen a DISC report that looks like this, where the adapted and natural styles look differently? Where on the left there's a high I, but on the right, all of the 4 DISC styles are close to the midline. Now, if you've seen this before and you've ever wondered what it is, then this video is for you. This is some breakthrough work that I've been researching for close to a decade. And today I want to share these ideas with you, because what you can start to do is you can take these DISC insights, you can combine them with your navigational coaching, and you can also bring in the tools of timeline therapy to remove those significant emotional events and traumas from the past. And what you'll see in a future DISC report is the DISC style will totally change. It'll blow you away. So let's have a look at this together. The first word that I want to introduce to you is the word disparity. Now, disparity means difference. So in context here, when you look at the DISC report, you can see there's a disparity, a difference between the graph on the left, which is the adapted style, in comparison to the graph on the right, which is the natural style. There's a disparity, there's a difference. You can also see the disparity here. There is a difference between what you can see on the left, adapted, and what you can see on the right, natural. There's another disparity here. What you see on the left is different to what you see on the right. So these are the key words that I want you to remember. Disparity means difference. And the more disparity, the bigger the difference, the more stress that the individual is going through right now. So the bigger the gap, the bigger the difference, the greater the disparity, the more stress the individual is going through right now. Secondly, the bigger the disparity, the bigger the difference, the greater the gap between the scores, the more mental health problems that the coachee will be experiencing and possibly exhibiting. You might be seeing them in their natural style. Their mental health problems may show up in their adapted style. You might see one person in the coaching session, yet they could behave extremely different at home or in business. Thirdly, there could be major job dissatisfaction. And the reason why this is so important, because the average person is going to spend around about 2,000 hours or more per year in their profession. Imagine that. 40 hours per week, 50 weeks of the year, 2,000. Now, some people are working 60-hour weeks, so 6 5s are 30. Some people might be spending 3,000 hours in their career. And the greater the disparity, the more stress. The bigger the difference, the more mental health problems. And the greater the gap between the adapted and the natural style, the greater job dissatisfaction that they'll be experiencing. So we've learned about disparity. Disparity is difference. We understand that the greater the gap, the more different they are. The greater the disparity, the more stress, mental health problems, and job dissatisfaction they're going to experience. And then thirdly, I want you to remember this. The larger the movement, the more significant the correlation. Remember that. The larger the movement, the more significant the correlation. So let's have a look at the correlation here. So we start to focus in on movement that exceeds 10 points. So when we're having a look at this client's D style, there's a disparity. The natural D style is minus 18, or 18 points below their adapted style. You can see their adapted style increases. The I style increases by 36 points. You can also see that the S style goes up by 22 points. And the S style drops by 25 points. And what you can see is you can see this individual's energy is all around the place. There's a lot of disparity. There's a lot of difference. There's going to be a lot of stress, potential mental health problems, a lot of job dissatisfaction. And remember, the larger the movement, the more significant the impact is going to be. So look at the amount of movement in this person's disc style, from adapted to natural. This person's going to have a lot of stress. There's definitely going to be mental health problems there, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to have conflicts with their job. Let's have a look at the difference here. The D style here goes up by 21 points, and you can see it goes from below the energy line to above the energy line. You can see with the S style, it drops by 21 points. It's almost at the energy line, and then it drops all the way down from 48 to 27. And then you can see the big drop here. The C style adapted is 80, and there's a disparity here of 42 points. There's going to be a lot of stress. There will be mental health problems, and there will be job dissatisfaction. So remember, the greater the gap, the more significant this is going to be. We can also have a look at this one here. We can see that the D, the S, and the C style are all very similar, but the I style drops down by minus 28 points. That is a significant difference. This person, this is one of my coaching clients, and they told me at home they're an introvert. At work, they're an extrovert. And their partner complains because when they're at work, they talk to everybody all day. But when they come home, they won't converse with the partner or the family. This is leading to stress. This person does have mental health issues, and there's a lot of job dissatisfaction. So let's recap once again, and I want to layer this in. It's so important. Disparity equals difference. The more disparity, the more stress, the more likely they're going to have mental health problems, and the greater the job dissatisfaction. And remember, the larger the movement, the more significant the correlation. So the question on your mind is probably, there must be reasons for this. There must be reasons why these graphs are so different. Well, there's 4 reasons. The first one, it can come down to survival issues. Secondly, it can be that this person is living in a constant state of fear. Thirdly, it can be ignorance, which means they just don't know how to behave in either environment. And fourthly, this person could be a seeker. They're at the start of their journey. Their levels of emotional intelligence are low. Their self-awareness is low, and they don't know who they are yet. And there's going to be 4 reasons why you see these disparities. Number 1, survival issues. Number 2, living in a state of fear. Thirdly, it's ignorance. They just don't know what they don't know. And fourthly, they could be at the start of their journey, low levels of emotional awareness, and they're seeking excellence. So let's take a deeper dive into this. Have a look at this graph here. We call this an unusual graph. Now, when you're looking at the right-hand side here, you'll see that all scores are around the midline. And there's a couple of reasons why this could happen. So we call it an unusual or a tight graph. Now, the first thing is that the individual could be trying to outsmart the instrument. They might be trying to trick the DISC report. And if you see an unusual graph, a tight graph that looks like this, then possibly they could be trying to outsmart the instrument. Secondly, this person could be over-analyzing all the questions. They could be reading the questions over and over and over and over and again and attempting to over-analyze what the questions mean. And what you can do to discover that, you can ask them, how much time did it take you to complete the report? Remember, this report should take somewhere between 5 to 15 minutes. But I have seen people doing it for 60, 90, and 120 minutes. And the reason why is because they were attempting to overanalyze. Thirdly, when you see an unusual or a tight graph, this could be where there has been significant emotional events in the client's past. So a significant emotional event is normally what we refer to as a Uden moment. Something has happened unexpectedly. It was dramatic. It was isolating for them, and there was no coping mechanism. Now, the significant emotional events is not the root cause. So if you're one of my timeline therapy students, we talk about the root cause. The Uden moments are not always root cause. They're often significant emotional events. So if we have a look at our timeline, we have the past, we have now, and we have the future. Now, significant emotional events normally take place anywhere from ages 0 up to present age. However, they're often not the root cause. They're big events. It could be a car accident when you're 18. It could be the loss of your parents in your 40s. It could be the death of your spouse when you're in your 60s. Now, they're significant events, but they're not the root cause. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you see one of these unusual or tight graphs, it could also mean that this individual is trying to be all things to all people. They're trying to be all the DISC styles. They're all the D, all the I, all the S, all the C. They're trying to be a balance, and they're trying to keep everybody happy. And then fifthly, it could be an inability to understand the adjectives in the questionnaire. So this can happen when people lack knowledge. So maybe they have very poor English skills, maybe their Chinese skills are poor, maybe their Turkish is bad. Now, the good news is that we can complete these DISC reports in more than 70 different languages. So if you're giving an English report to a native Chinese speaker, you might be best to give them a Chinese report because it will definitely help them. Now, going back to here and having a look at this case study, this was one of my clients. And what I can tell you is that this person did not try to outsmart the instrument. He's done other assessments in the past, and he did not try to outsmart the instrument. Secondly, I know that he didn't try to over-analyze the questions because he did it within the 15 minutes. What I do know is that this client has major trauma in the past. There has been significant emotional events all throughout the client's history, year after year after year after year after year after year. So what I know with my personal history is that this client has had a lot of significant emotional events. And also, I know he tries to be all things to all people. He wants to keep everybody happy. And this is often a trait of one of the things that they've been through throughout their life. We could say that there's been substance abuse involved, and now they're trying to be all things to all people. Is that making sense? Isn't this great? Isn't it exciting? So there's going to be 4 reasons why this occurs: survival, fear, ignorance, or they're a seeker. Now, when it comes to survival, what we know is that this person is going to adapt because of security. Now, security means that they've just got to get their basic needs met: food, shelter, water, or perhaps they're just living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck. So if there's a lot of movement in the graphs, it could be for survival. And this person's trying to ensure their personal or their family security. Now, if there's a lot of movement in the adapted graph, this has to do with job. So if there's a lot of movement over here in their adapted style, then oftentimes this is because of success. And what's happening is they think they have to be a different person in order to get the desired results. Maybe they do. And so they're adapting. And this happens over a long period of time. And it comes back to this. It comes back to job dissatisfaction. Maybe their natural style doesn't suit what their career requires. They're under a lot of stress. It leads to a lot of mental health problems. Now, what you will find is people who get into sales. I was told this when I was 19. My boss said, Daniel, a lot of people get into sales because they are depressed. And he said, a lot of reasons why people get out of sales is because they're depressed. So oftentimes people think they can make a ton of money. They're going to get into sales. They experience rejection and setbacks. They don't get the results they want. They're not getting the recognition they desire. They can't build relationships fast enough, and they can't get things right, and they keep making mistakes. Now, for a salesperson, you've got to face rejection every single day. A lot of people, and I've heard this from salespeople, a lot of salespeople suffer hemorrhoids. They suffer constipation because they've always got the shits, either with themselves or with the customer. So remember, the greater the disparity, the more the stress, the more the mental health problems. As I said, some salespeople get into sales because they're depressed, and they get out of it because they're depressed. And ultimately, a lot of job dissatisfaction. So hopefully by understanding disparity and the differences between these graphs, you now have a deeper understanding of what DISC can do. I have been studying and researching this. I have gone through thousands and thousands and thousands of DISC case studies, and I see this pattern over and over again. And what it does is it helps me with timeline therapy because I can pinpoint exactly where these people's significant emotional events are. I can show them in their DISC report, and I can get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times the value out of my DISC report just by doing this. So I encourage you to go back through all of your DISC reports that you've completed. Go through your partner's DISC reports, practice with people in the community, and start to have a look at disparity. So one final review of what we learned. Today we learned about disparity. And disparity is the differences that we see from the graph on the left to the graph on the right. And it's very easy to see, and you can simply calculate it with these scores below. As you can see here, the D style, a difference of 18, I style, a difference of 36, S style, a difference of 22, and the C style, a difference of 25. So remember, the more the disparity, the more the stress, the more the difference, the more stress, the more likely the person is to have a mental health problem, and the greater the job dissatisfaction. And the larger the movement, the more significant is the correlation. So you can see here, big movement. We start to look at movement anytime we see a 10-point movement. So this person, 18 points, 36, 22, 25. There's huge amounts of movement, which means there's going to be more stress. There's going to be more mental health problems. There's going to be more dissatisfaction. Example 2, a disparity, a difference of 21 points. The D style's going up 21 points. The S style's going down 21 points. The C style's going down 42 points. This person could appear to be bipolar. They could have polarity responses. They could be a totally different person. And it could even be like they have to wear a mask. I've seen this before over and over and again. And finally, you might see an unusual graph. Now, there's 5 reasons for an unusual graph. Perhaps they're trying to outsmart the instrument. They could be overanalyzing. There could be a major significant emotional event. And as I said, significant emotional events are not necessarily the root cause. They're other major events throughout the individual's life. They may be trying to be all things to all people, and they could have an inability to understand the adjectives in the questionnaire. Now, if you see these movements, it's because of 4 things. These are the 4 reasons. 1, they could have these disparities because of survival issues. They could be living in fear or not knowing how to regulate their fears. They could be ignorant to what's happening around them and the impact that it's causing to their behaviors and personality. And fourthly, they could be a seeker of excellence. They're starting their journey. They lack emotional awareness. So when you see the disparity on the adapted graph, oftentimes this is for success. And what it means is they're adapting for the job. Remember, the greater the difference, the more likely they're going to have stress, mental health problems, or job dissatisfaction. If you see the disparity in their natural style, often it's for survival. And they're just trying to get their basic needs met. Those basic security needs: food, shelter, water, accommodation, paycheck. Oftentimes they're living hand to mouth or paycheck to paycheck. Now, I hope you found that fascinating. And before you go, what I want you to do is I want you to leave a comment in the comment section below and tell me what's one thing you've learned about DISC today. Maybe it's for yourself. Maybe it's about somebody you've worked with in the past, and now you've connected it all together. Okay, do it now, and I look forward to seeing you at an upcoming training. Have a wonderful day.